What's up, guys? We're Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health and social well-being. Today is June 21st. It's Saturday, week 3, primary squat and bench of the third block. And the only reason why that's fun is because the last time I talked to you guys, last video, we were literally finishing off the final week of block 1 and going into the first week of block 2. But quite a bit has happened since then. Your boy's been pretty busy with a few things, and I'm going to be breaking all that down for you guys real quick before we head to the gym today. And today should be a fun session because my client Carrington and my client Clay, they're in town with a couple of their homies, so we're gonna be meeting up with them. Bria, Y2, it's all their week 4. It's only my week 3, but it's their week 4, so it's gonna be fun getting them hyped up and make sure they're executing the way that they need to be. So that's gonna be really good. But before we get into all the updates, everything like that, if you guys are here specifically for the Avancus Apex V3 shoe review, if that's what you're here for specifically, I'll go ahead and have, the timestamp somewhere on screen of, what you need to fast forward to if you're trying to get to that part of the video. Because I understand, because if all goes well, this video will be out either the day before or a couple days before those drop on the 25th or the morning of. I'm trying to get this review done so that you guys have time to watch it, think about it, and decide if you want to get the latest version or not. And first of all, shout out to them, man, because legitimately, they've sent me every single version of their shoe. I review it, right? I list out my pros, my cons. I'm very honest and objective about it. Give them the feedback, and they always take the feedback very seriously, along with the feedback of their sponsored athletes and different lifters they send it to, and they always try to come back better. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see, man. I'll just show you guys real quick, at least kind of like what they look like. Like I literally got these. They literally came in yesterday, fresh, like tag still on everything. But so they sent me the black low tops. They hit the boy up, the red high tops as well. You know what I mean? So it's good. Well, the first thing I can say right now is that it feels like very light. Like it still feels like a shoe. Still feels like a shoe, especially with the base, right? It doesn't feel like a slipper, but it just feels very light. Like I have a feeling it's going to conform to the foot very well. So I'm excited about that to see how that is. And even same thing with the high top, like just like very light, flexible material, which I think is good. So we'll see. And honestly, the timing of them sending these is perfect, but we'll kind of get into that, like why the timing of them sending these is perfect. So like I said, if you guys want to just jump straight to the review, like after I've lifted and tried them, go ahead and just fast forward to whatever timestamp, wherever I put that up. But let's kind of give you guys a little overview, kind of catch you up real quick. So first of all, last block went really, really well. Like I said, as a quick overview, everything we did in terms of accessories was very straightforward. Anything that was 12s last block, we dropped those to 10. No, everything that was 12s the first block, we dropped those to 10s last block. And then mostly everything that's 10s this block, we dropped down to 8s for this third block, for the final block of the macro, before we kind of reset everything, right? And we hit a lot of PRs. I don't even know how much of it I recorded. If I did, I put it all up on Instagram, but we hit a lot of PRs across those movements. So really happy with how things are going, really happy with overall progression, and just felt way more adapted to everything last block compared to what I did the first block, which once again is to be expected. Fitness getting more elevated across everything. So I'm really, really happy about that. As far as, the big 3 themselves, those went great. So on the week 3, which you guys know for me is the week 4 primary deadlift, because my deadlift is staggered with my squat and bench, we ended up hitting 606 pounds for a big PR double on deadlift. So I was really happy about that because the first block, y'all know we came in and hit that PR triple with 578 pounds. So we come in and hit a PR double with 606 pounds. And also just being the first time that I've repped 600 for any amount of reps on deadlift was awesome. I was super, super hyped about it. I'm not going to lie to you guys because y'all know like the lights change in AR and stuff like that. But when I was locking out that second rep and the lights started changing red, I thought it was just my vision going red. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. I got to finish this. But it was really cool going back and watching it and realizing, oh, the timing of the lights, that was beautiful, man. Maybe they was watching your boy on the camera. I don't know. But I was really, really hyped about that. It was just cool. It was cool for my deadlift to feel that strong. Was really happy with the smoothness and relative speed of the first rep, and just happy with my ability to grind through the second rep, because that sticking point, the lockout, is typically where I would fail, right? Whether it'd be 1 rep, 2 rep, whatever. So the fact that I was able to fight through that, just really, really happy about that. As far as squats, you guys know the first block we realized like, okay, squats are a little bit, nerfed right now, right? Or we thought they were nerfed. Anyway, the bottom line is, we took 235 kg for a single, and it moved kind of meh. So then we ended up just hitting 225 kg and using that as our baseline for the first block. So the goal for this block was to come in and hit 230 a lot cleaner than what we did, either did 225 or 235 last block, right? And it went incredibly well. It went incredibly well. It came in, hit it, and we hit it very smoothly, right? And then for bench, almost so close to a very fat PR double with 363 pounds. Like first rep felt great, second rep was right there, but just couldn't quite get in groove. But the reason why I'm still happy with it and really just happy with how things went last block as a whole is because I was doing a lot of traveling, and that's why I wasn't uploading to YouTube and stuff like that. So for pretty much the entirety of my week 3, I was in Carolina, right? To my boy Dom, aka Mr. Rise and Shine, the client, the homie. He finally got married, right? So big congrats to him. But I was in Carolina for like a few days before his wedding, just hanging out with friends, hanging out with Kelly, Jamar, Evan. So I was out of town for that, right? And then literally the following week, right, for my week 4, which is why you guys saw I was in a different gym with the squat and bench. I was in San Diego because my boy Mark, longtime homie, you know what I mean, the man who's behind the editing of these YouTube videos, right? He also got married, so it was 2 weddings back to back. So I was pretty much out of town 2 weeks back to back. And I was, did my best to keep things on point as far as variables like eating and sleeping. But obviously, when you're going out, hanging out with friends, eating stuff like that, variables aren't gonna be perfect. And I'm at a point where I really try to enjoy myself when I get the chance to do that type of stuff. So eating obviously wasn't perfect. Sleep was horrendous. I'm not gonna lie, just because a lot of the stuff was getting up early and then going different things and going home late, stuff like that. So sleep wasn't great. And then on the week 4 specifically, I had to actually shift everything back by a day. So my exposure timing was off. So I say all that not in the sense of like, oh, here's all my excuses, but more in the sense of like, hey, the fact that those variables were the way they were, but squats still moved as it did, and bench, which is, y'all know from pretty much most people, but for me for sure, the exposure timing is so important, especially only benching 3 times a week right now compared to 5. Having it be like a day later than usual, to be that close to hitting the double, I feel really, really confident. Had I been at home, normal circumstances, or even if I'd not been home, just hit the bench on the day I was supposed to instead of hitting a day later, it would have been there. So all in all, really happy where strength is at. So that's this view for last block. It went really, really well. It was cool. With that being said, a couple little changes here, right? That kind of gets into why I'm happy that, Avancus sent these shoes. Is like I was saying, we thought that my squat was maybe a little bit like, nerfed, or rather was going to be nerfed. Like I said, with the way I'm training right now, the whole purpose of how I'm training is, hey, trying to build up more mass, build up hypertrophy, while kind of trying to maintain the top end as best we can to set myself up to compete bigger and better next year, right? And I'll be talking to you guys about something about that towards the end of the video, a little announcement. But basically, that was the mentality that, hey, we're cool because we know we're doing more accessory work than we typically do. We're pushing it harder. It's okay if the squat kind of takes a hit. But what we found with this block on block 3, especially going to week 1, and then we just realized, man, you know what? The squat's not nerfed from pushing the accessories, because I'm not taxed. It's not like, oh, my legs are really beat up and, oh, I'm just toast. It's like, it just feels underdosed. It just feels like there's not enough stimulus, like fitness isn't high enough on the squat. So, reported that to Brad, and Brad's like, well, man, if that's the case and you're still recovering well from what we're doing, handling it well, let's go ahead and just add the high bar squats back in on that middle day. Let's go back to squatting 3 times a week. Let's add the high bar squats back in, and let's just see how you feel with that, right? So for the back end deload of week 4, and then for the week 1, we had the high bar back in, but all we did was just 2 sets, just the top set and 1 back down set, not the 3 sets we had before, right? We just added that back in, right? And then the other thing we did was just swapped out the hack squat on that day for the belt squat, because something we were noticing is that, okay, between with pushing the leg press and stuff like that, and then also pushing the hack squat, even though it felt good and recovery wise it felt fine, it felt more like, man, the hack squat just doesn't feel like I'm getting that good full feeling in the legs, right? Which once again makes sense with the way I'm leveraged and even trying the different hack squats and the different positionings. We just know, for me, this has been time tested. We've done this over and over again, that belt squat for me is actually a really good hypertrophy movement, not just good for squat volume stealing. Just the way I'm built, the amount of knee flexion I'm able to get on it relative to a lot of things like the way a lot of leg presses are built and hack squats, it just feels a lot better. So you know what, let's go ahead and just swap out the hack squat, keep the same amount of sets, just add that back in and see how that feels, right? And with doing that, we started with just a couple sets of belt squats too, just kind of get used to everything. So did that, right? And came into the week 2 primary on squat and still just felt a little flat. So at that point, Brad's like, okay, we made the mistake that a lot of y'all were making, right? Assuming like, oh, it's too much. Like, you got to pull back, blah, blah. It's like, no, it clearly still wasn't enough. So what we did for this most recent past week, going into this week 3, which I'll show you guys footage of this, is we just went back to fully 3 sets of high bar, right? So hit my top set of high bar this past Tuesday, top set of 6 with 160 kg, 352 pounds. That felt really, really good, moved very, very well. And then after that, I ended up hitting my back down sets, right? My 2 sets of 6 with 308 pounds, right? And that once again felt really, really good. No issues there. And what I want to talk about in relation to the shoes, you guys probably noticed, is that even though I was using the A7s that I hit the 230 at the end of the last block, because for those of you who don't know, the stiff sleeve band is gone, or rather not so much gone. They're just now honoring their contracts with these companies until like the end of 2026, as they should, right? So my mentality was, with everything that I talked to you guys about last video, with how I've learned about my squat mechanics, my techniques, like, oh, cool, now I'm going to take that, put in the stiff sleeves, and it's going to feel even better. But just through week 1 of this block, I just realized, man, it doesn't feel better though. Like, it's like, once again, because of the amount of material with the stiff sleeves, right, how stiff they are, it kind of just naturally changes my pattern up a little bit, even when I'm trying to just squat the same way I typically do. So I decided, you know what, let's just go back to the SBDs. So that's what I did in the high bar squats, as you guys, saw here on screen. I went back to the SBDs, and it felt really, really good. I can just automatically, like I said, just walk out, brace, and just squat. Not worrying about knees tracking forward or sending the hips back as much. It's just a smooth, even break. It feels very comfortable and natural. It just feels better in the SBD sleeves. So I think I'm done with stiff sleeves. Like, once again, this isn't to say that everybody should be. Matter of fact, the next Powerlifting Now podcast that will drop July 1st, we actually do a deep dive into that, like who should still use stiff sleeves, who shouldn't. If they do still use stiff sleeves, like we give examples of our clients of like how we're having them use them. Is it just on primary days, or is it throughout the week, or is it just on week 3s and 4s? We break all that down. But for me, in terms of what makes my squatting feel best, it's this very natural squat pattern that I've now kind of found for myself, right? Being back in the soft sleeves. And I can't replicate in the stiff sleeves. So because the movement just feels too different, I'm just going to stick with the soft sleeves. But the other thing is that I found is with this new squat pattern, my time test of squatting the ones has not been feeling the same. It hasn't been feeling quite as good. And it makes sense. I think part of why the ones have felt so good for so long is, like I told you guys, for me, it's basically the equivalent of, like, it's a flat, right? But it's almost like a combo between like a flat and a heel. Because, it's a bulkier shoe. It's obviously elevated, right? Even though, like, it's flat. And it's like you're higher off the ground than like a true flat shoe, and the positioning in terms of how it made me feel, like how it feels on my back when I'm hit the hole, like just felt a lot better with those stiff sleeves when I had the more quote unquote upright squat and knees tracking a lot. But with my more natural squat pattern, where I kind of naturally have a little bit more of that natural forward lean the way that I need to, it just hasn't been feeling quite the same. So I was like, you know what? Let's just try flats again, right? And that's why I was using flats. And I don't know if you guys can even tell because like the way the camera was cut off, but I was using flats on the high bar day, right? And then I came in and used flats again on this most recent tertiary day, on my priming day, right? And it felt great. Like, I was using the version 2 of the Avancus actually, and it felt really, really good. Everything felt in groove, like rooting, locked in, natural positioning. And it makes sense because, once again, the whole idea of like my new squat pattern is just like, hey, how do I bodyweight squat? Well, when I'm bodyweight squatting, I'm typically barefoot, right? So I still like to have the support of a shoe. I still like having like, that ankle support too. That's why I like squatting in high tops still. That's why I use the high tops on this past Thursday for the priming session. But it felt good. Everything felt really, really good in regards to the squat pattern. So I say all that to say the timing of these new Avancus coming in is perfect. So I'm excited to use them. I'll be using the high tops for squatting, and then I'll be probably doing bench and deadlifting the low top, so I can give you guys a proper full review, right? But yeah, with that being said, that's where we're at. So at this point, we are now back to the 11 sets of squats that we were doing before, we came into this new programming that was more focused on hypertrophy. We're back to the 11 sets of squats, but we still have the same amount of accessory volume, right? Still have like the leg press. The only thing that we did change, instead of 4 sets on leg press, we went to 3 sets on leg press, just due to the fact that, okay, we now have, 3 sets of the high bar, right, on the secondary day. So we dropped 1 set there just to be safe, because there are limits, right? Even though I'm trying to get you guys to not be so dogmatic in what's too much or too little volume, because it comes down to the individual, training age, etc. We don't want to get too crazy with it. So 3 sets of leg press is what I have now on Saturdays today. And then I still have the 3 sets of leg extension, right, on Tuesday. And then instead of 3 sets of hack squats, 3 sets of bell squats. So we still have, the 9 sets of accessories, 9 to 8, depending on like if we're back in deloading, then, you pull a couple sets back, stuff like that. But that's the main thing there. And then the other thing to note is that, so one, with the belt squats, right, we are doing sets of 12 actually. So instead of like doing, you know, what would be 8s if we were still doing hack squats, we are doing sets of 12 on the belt squat, just because we already know if I'm doing low reps on the belt squats, I mean, even with 12s, I can load up the entire thing, right? But it's like, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for good volume, healthy pop, that fullness in the leg, and not trying to like, you know, have to bloat all the plates for no reason. So we're doing what's time test for the belt squat, keeping it sets of 12, right? For the belt squat RDLs, right? We were doing 6 with the barbell RDLs, but we're doing 8s for those two because I can just get away with doing more reps on it comfortably, regardless of the load, because it just doesn't tax the back the way the barbell RDL was. So we're doing sets of 8s there. And then with the leg extension and leg curls, same thing, 12s. Because we did go to 10s with the leg extensions and leg curls last block, right? So I said we started with 12s, then went to 10s, and we've been 8s this block. But we just saw like from week 1 already, like, man, I'll get to the point where I'm stacking some of this stuff out. We go to 8s. And it's like, I just don't need to do heavy 8s on a single joint movement, like like a leg extension or a leg curl. Like, it feels a lot better doing like the higher reps and just getting that volume in with those type of movements, which is also why all my AMRAP movements, like all my upper body movements, stuff like that, or even my AMRAPs for like calves and abs, like those stayed AMRAPs across the block, right? So we're just keeping those 12s as well, right? But everything else as far as upper body work and stuff like that, which I'll probably be showing you guys next video, all the things that were 12s and then 10s last block are 8s. So there's that. And the last little update in terms of, you know, training anyway, is just the bench day. So we've basically taken that tertiary bench day that's just like the sets of 5, and we've added in a priming single just because we know that when we have, you know, 3 days of benching, that having a primary single has helped things to feel better on the primary day. And so far it's been really, really good. It has. So we got the primer single, right? And then I set the 3 sets of 5. The first set of 5 is pushed heavier, and then the 2 sets of 5 after that are pushed a little bit lighter, just getting some good healthy volume to prime myself and set myself up for going into today. So yeah, because I hit 135 kg, 297 pounds for my primary single on Thursday, 120 kg, 264 for the initial set of 5, and then 110 kg, 242 pounds for the 2x5 after that. So yeah, basically, you know, we're still pushing the accessories normally. The accessory volume is still where it's been. We're just getting a little bit more specific again, doing the things that kind of make the list feel good because I can handle it. I can handle more of the dosage to do it. And since the purpose is trying to still maintain or even build the top end of the big 3 as much as we can while still focusing on hypertrophy, it's like, okay, we might as well, you know, make sure that we get that locked in. But with that being said, there's another reason why we're just trying to specify things a little bit more. But like I said, I'll talk about that at the end of this video. I think that's it. I think that's everything I need to update you guys on as far as everything. You know, back in the soft sleeves, back in using like a true normal like flat powerlifting type shit like the Avancus. So we'll see how these feel today. And then the review, we'll get to that after we train today. So yeah, with all that being said, let's head to the gym. All right, guys, so we are back at the crib, and today was awesome. Everybody showed out. I was kind of sad that it wasn't my week 4 because everybody showed out. Bria showed out. Clay showed out. Carrington showed out. Y2 showed out. Very, very strong sessions for all of them, so super hyped about that. As for myself, today felt amazing. Like deadlift, once again, like my week 4 deadlift is coming up on this upcoming Tuesday before my week 4 squat and bench. That will be next Saturday. So today was just like, essentially the week 3 secondary building into for the deadlifts. Those were smooth, easy, casual, no problem. But I felt good. Good drive, good pop off the floor, which is a good sign for deadlifts this upcoming Tuesday. So I'm excited about that. As far as bench press, once again, for still only benching 3 times a week, it's moving well. It's moving as it should. I'm pretty sure my cap next week is like 170. So that'll be a really good test. Like knowing like, okay, how does 170 feel on 3 times a week right now compared to when I was benching 5 times a week? And that'll let us know how much longer we'll maybe go with benching 3 times a week before we start adding the bench work back in and maybe pulling back on some body accessory work. We'll see. But the big thing was squats, man. Squats felt amazing. Felt very poppy in my legs. Weight felt light on the back again. Like a night and day difference from last week. Like last week with the 200 kg, and mind you, that was still like in the stiff sleeves, right? I'll have that on screen right now. 441 pounds, 200 kg, and it just did not feel good. It moved okay, but just did not feel good. Whereas 10 more kilos today, 210, 463, felt amazing. Back in the the softer sleeves, and using the Avancus today, like it felt really, really good. And of course, as far as like, my overall tech and positioning, a large part of that is the sleeves and the shoes, which I'm about to get into that review here in a second. But just the programming changed. It's just so funny because one, I misspoke earlier. I said like, oh yeah, we're back on the 11 sets, but technically we're back on 12 sets of squats because now instead of the top set on this day and the 3x5s, the top set and the 4x4, we're like, the first set's the heaviest, then we drop the weight a little bit for the second set, and then the same weight when we drop again for the remaining 2 sets of 4. And then, of course, I have the 3 sets of 6 high bar on my secondary day, and then I have my primer single, and then my 3x5 after that on my priming day now. That's what we have. So the volume's back up, and that's still while having, the 8 to 9 direct sets of accessory quad work, right? Whereas before, we had the 11 sets of squats, we only had like 6 sets of direct quad work. So the fact that I'm just still feeling good with all that is, once again, just confirms what I've been saying, right? Like, what you need is dependent on you individually, your tolerances, your training age, everything like that. So I was just really, really happy with how everything moved today, and it's got me really, really excited for this upcoming week 4. I think it's going to be nice. I know I'm not going for anything crazy because, once again, Brad's kind of has everything capped out, and he's just pacing me super steadily on the top end. But to just feel that much better compared to last week. It wasn't just like the typical like, oh, week 2 feels and the week 3 feels a little bit better. It's like, no, week 2 felt awful, and week 3 felt like I'm on a different block. So really happy with all that. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the review for the Apex Power V3s for the Avancus shoe. And honestly, like the way I'm going to kind of look at it is through a comparison to the V2s, and then also a comparison to the Ironhold Pros, the shoe that I did a review on earlier this year, where when I did that review, I pretty much said that like as of right now, it kind of edges out the Avancus version 2s for me, right? And if you guys have kept up with the channel or kept up with me on Instagram, like I said, I've reviewed every version of the shoe so far, and I've always reviewed it very positively. Like there's been a couple of criticisms that I maybe have had, but that's because I'm just being honest and objective. Once again, this isn't a sponsored video. They're not paying me to say any of this. I'm not a sponsored athlete. I'm just giving you guys information that I always like to do. But even though it's been a great all-around shoe, it's always been some reason why I'm not using it for all 3 lifts, whatever that may be, right? Now with the squats, like I said, I try not to count the squats because I always say, like, hey, if you squat in flats, you can squat just fine in these, and you should have no issues. For me, like I said, I was always using the ones to squat because of the way I was squatting, and the fact that the ones just had a certain feel with it being a flat, like a bulkier shoe, and also like a combination between a heel and a flat for me, where it just felt good for my positioning in the hole. But now with the way that I'm squatting now, back in the soft sleeves and not really like emphasizing just the knees forward as much and kind of just squatting in a way that feels far more natural to me, like I said, like a true flat shoe feels better for me now. So as far as that, right, like it's no longer a thing where it's like, hey, it's really great for squats, just not great for me. It's like, no, it's great for squats for me now as well, right? So let's kind of just get into each lift and kind of go about it that way, right? So with the squats, we'll start with the version 2s, right? Because just once again for reference, I have the version 3s, red high tops, and the version 3, black low tops, right? The version 2s that they sent me, funnily enough, was that I had was the reverse. So I had the version 2 red low tops and the version 2 black high tops, right? So first thing I'm gonna say is whether you're in the high top or the low top, I feel like is really gonna just be preference more than anything else. I think people that are gonna enjoy the high top it's probably gonna be more so for squat than anything else. But if you also like them for bench and deadlifts, it's probably not gonna be an issue for you, especially if you pull conventional. If you pull sumo, you might like the low tops a little bit more. Maybe you don't want that much support around your ankle since most people who like pull sumo, they tend to pull into some type of slip or something like that. But let's just kind of do the comparison. So the first thing I'd say, right, between the version 2 and the version 3 is obviously very similar look overall, right? But this shoe is lighter. Like it's lighter. It conforms better to the foot. And even though like the base is still solid as far as like, when you walk out, you feel like you're well rooted on the squat and stuff like that. It's a lighter shoe. It's not so flimsy to where it feels like a slipper, but it's just not quite as bulky in terms of how it feels weight-wise compared to the V2. So I actually like that a lot because your foot doesn't feel heavy on the squat when you're unracking, when you're walking it out or anything like that. But once you are settled and secured, you feel just as stable in the V3 as what you do in the V2. So I like that a lot. And the reason why I'm using these for squats is because this is what I specifically squatted, right, is the high top version. So I really like that aspect of it. And I could tell that even when I just like first picked it, I was like, oh, this is lighter than this, right? And also just for reference, I take the insoles out for all 3 lifts, just so you guys know, for those of you who keep it in for whatever reason. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. But yeah, it just feels like a lighter shoe overall, conforms really, really well to the foot. But still feels very well rooted when I squat in it. Positioning in the hole felt good. Felt really well rooted and well planted. Like I said, I can feel like my heel, my pinky toe, my big toe, everything that I need to feel like I'm connected to the ground was there. Just like it was in these, but once again, this is just a lighter shoe, which I personally like that a whole lot, right? Because it's enough of a shoe to feel sturdy once I'm planted, but it's not, it's not like so much of a shoe where it feels heavy and bulky. So it's like a nice balance of like, I don't like squatting in slippers, but I do like having like a lighter feel to the shoe. So I really enjoy that, right, as far as the comparisons there, right? Now, when it comes to the low tops, right, same thing, same overall spill, right? Like this is just a lighter shoe. It conforms a lot more. This one, it still conforms. Like it's not like it's super stiff, but like you can tell like I have to apply a little bit more work to get it to like kind of bend back. Whereas this one, it's like, it's easy. Like it's just a lighter material, which is great, right? Now, in regards to using them for bench, we'll start with that, right? The biggest thing that I'll say between these two is the grip on this is just better than this one. Like, I don't know how or what they did with it, but it is. Because you guys know with the review of like the other versions, that's the one thing I've always said is that, hey, it's not that it's bad for bench. It's not like you're slipping aggressively, but in terms of what feels you have better grip, like absolutely no slip, I always said, hey, the Hyper V still beat this, right? And that's why the Iron Hold Pro shoe that I reviewed earlier this year, since it's made by the same people who make the Hyper Vs plus Oni Pros, they collabed on it. That's why this shoe kind of won out for me a little bit. It's because okay, I can squat in these just fine, can squat in the V2s just fine, right? So no real issues there. If you can squat in the flat, you can squat in either of these, no problem. For the bench though, it's the fact that the grip here was just better. But I think part of the grip being better, aside from like the bottom being like the same as the Hyper V, is also just kind of like the weight to the shoe. It's heavier than the Hyper V, so you probably feel like you can be very well planted there, right? So that's definitely part of it when it comes to the bench press. But when I compare it with the version 3, I had no slip issues today at all. Like I felt very well connected to the floor. I could apply full leg drive. Didn't have to hold back on it. Feet weren't sliding around or anything like that. It felt just as good to bench in these as it did in the Iron Hold Pros, as it does in my Hyper Vs. There was no issue. The one thing that I like, once again, with this though, is that it is flatter. It's closer to the ground than even what this is, right? So if you're somebody where you kind of like to be in a more elevated shoe, then you might still want to stick with the Hyper V for that reason. But if you like your foot being as close to the floor as possible when you're benching, this is actually going to win out. It's not because the grip is necessarily better than this grip, but it's not worse. It's like they're very similar. You're not going to slip in either, but this is closer to the ground. Which I think is huge. And that's why, at this point, I'd have to say it also went that the version 3s wins over the Iron Hold Pro because of the deadlift. That's the big thing, right? Because you guys know that I've been saying for me, I've still been sticking with my L runs. Or if you're in some type of slipper, because you like to be as close to the floor as possible, you're probably going to stick like, with your slipper, your L runs when it comes to deadlift. Because for both the Iron Hold Pro and the the version 2s, mind you, I pull conventional, right? So it's not like it's like crazy elevated off the floor, but I felt the difference in both of these compared to actually being in the L runs. Not as much in this shoe though, funnily enough. This shoe actually seemed like it was like flatter and closer to the ground than the V2s, right? And that's why I let this win out over the V2s as well. And why when I did the review earlier, I said, as of right now, this to me is the best 3-in-1 shoe because for squats, I felt pretty equal on them. For bench, the grip was better on this. And then for deadlifts, this felt closer to the floor. Not quite as close to the L runs, but it felt closer to the floor. But at this point, the V3s, these are definitely closer to the floor and flatter than this. Like this, it's the first time where I've pulled in like a shoe like this and have not thought, I probably feel still like a little bit better in my L runs. Like these felt amazing. And I think it's like the fact that it is, and actually I know for a fact that they did make this shoe flatter. So between it being flatter and the fact that it also conforms to the foot better and you can just feel really well rooted to the floor, I think that's why it felt so good with deadlifting. And I think this would be the case whether you pull conventional or sumo. Whereas with something like the Iron Hold Pro or even the V2s, you're probably fine if you're a conventional puller. And I know people who pull sumo in it too, but in my personal opinion, it's like, with deadlift period, I want to be as close to the floor as possible, but even more so with sumo compared to conventional. That's why I would still probably pick like a slipper L run over one of these shoes where I care more about like, just feeling close to the ground because I don't need a whole lot of support for my shoe when I pull conventional. But for sumo, you probably want a little bit of support of the shoe, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be a high top to have ankle support, but you probably want to feel like your foot's not going to spill out of the shoe, right, when you're pulling sumo, which is why there's the benefit of that with these, right? But this, it's perfect because it's like, okay, it's close to the floor, right? Just like a slipper. You feel like you can really grab the floor, which is great. It conforms to the foot well, but it's still a shoe. It still has like enough weight and stability to it to where you don't feel like you're gonna spill out of the shoe, even if you're like getting in the sumo position, right? So that's the biggest thing as far as that is like with every other version, right? With every other version, including like the version 2s, it's always been a thing where I'm like, okay, it's great. It's 98% good or it's 99% good, but I have like a couple things I think they could tweak. But honestly, as far as version 3s, I don't like, I'll keep using them obviously because I plan to, I finally have a shoe where I can use it for all 3 lifts in the same day. And not having to carry around 2 shoes because like, oh, I still want to squat in my ones but I'll bench the hyper Vs or, oh, I'll bench in this today, but I'll pull in my L runs. Like, I think I'll finally be able to use a shoe like for all 3 lifts, but I don't really have any complaints with it. I think the fact that they just finally got it to be flat enough, right, where it feels that much closer to the floor, and the fact that you still feel like it's a shoe, especially because of the bottom part, right, but that the overall shoe, that it conforms so well and it's so light, I feel like that fixed a lot of the issues that I had. And the fact, like I said, just grip-wise, it feels good. Now, the one thing that I will say is that if you have a more negative shin angle when you bench, like if you have like that extreme setup, kind of like Sean Noriega, like the way he benches, you are probably still gonna maybe prefer these. These are probably gonna edge out a little bit. And once again, not because the grip is different, but because it has a little bit more weight to it. And I think that's actually something you want when you have a more negative shin angle, right? Basically, like when your feet are like way more out in front. I think you want the shoe to have a little bit more weight to it, so that way you can feel more like anchored, right? Whereas if you have a more positive shin angle, it's not going to be as big a deal, right? So if you're one of those, extreme outliers, then yeah, you might still prefer like the Iron Hold Pro or just your Hyper Vs in general. But outside of that, I feel like this shoe really will have you good to go. And like I say all the time, I think it is a great 3-in-1 shoe for most people. But when I'm reviewing it, I'm trying to also think about every small little detail, right? Like every aspect of the shoe based upon what type of lifter you are, what my preferences are. But for me, I'm good to go, man. Like I can walk in and do all 3, like in this. Even like my squats and be fine, because once again, it's enough support in the shoe to where I'm just fine. I just like squatting in high tops because I like to feel the ankle support. And after squatting once for years, I'm just very used to it. So, but at the same time, like for me, I could easily do bench and deadlift in this, no problem. Because like I said, I pull conventional, so pulling in this isn't going to feel any different for me than pulling in this. Benching in them isn't going to feel any different for me too either. But if you're a sumo puller, maybe you do prefer like the low top, or maybe you just like the feel of benching like in a low top as well because that's what you're used to. But either way, you can't go wrong. Like the V3s feel amazing, and honestly, like I said, I'm gonna keep using them throughout. This not just the week. I'm just gonna keep using them and see if I can find over time. Like, okay, but does it change? Like, do they start to slip more over time? Or let me try them on different surfaces and see kind of how that feels compared to like the Hyper Vs or the Iron Hold Pros. I will continue to do that, and I'll give you guys some updates. But as of right now, this is easily the best version of the Avancus shoe that they have made. And I like that. I'm very grateful that they actually, like, despite the fact that I'm not giving them perfect reviews, right? Give very good reviews, but I'm giving my criticism, and they're always taking the feedback, trying to make it better, taking the feedback of their athletes and their lifters and trying to make it better. I think that is awesome. I think that's what a company and brand should do to really make their product the best it can be. But yeah, as of right now, and once again, this isn't me like, oh, you're just going back and forth. Like, I'm not getting paid by any of these people, right? I make no money in doing this, right? But like I said, I would still hold to the fact that the Iron Hold Pro, in my opinion, is better than the V2s as a whole. But the V3 edges out the Iron Hold Pro. So as of right now, the V3, whether we're talking about, high top or low top, is the best 3-in-1 powerlifting shoe, in my opinion, as of right now. So those are my thoughts as far as that. Now, with that being said, and I know this has been a longer video, but hey, you know what, man? I didn't post much last block, so you kind of use this longer video to catch up. But I just wanted to, as far as my announcement, right? So you guys know that before I told you, hey, no matter how Nats goes, my plan is to just build the rest of this year, try to focus more on hypertrophy, getting bigger, and setting up a bigger, better baseline for next year when I compete next year. But the fact of the matter is I just realistically don't know what next year is going to look like. I really don't. At this point, it's not going to be a matter of like, oh, my roster growing more. Like, my roster is capped out to the number that it's been the past couple of years. 80 full coaching clients, 20 nutritional clients, so 100 clients in total. That's around where I like to keep things capped out. And that's not changing. But I have been doing more with business. I now offer a consultation call, mentorship call, like for non-clients basically. So it's something that like my clients can pay for if they're like on the weekly call package, where they can have an hour of my time just as more like a mentorship call, whether it's helping them with their own coaching to, helping them figure out problems with their clients, whether it's helping them increase their knowledge on programming, technique analysis, helping them learn how to market themselves better, business, whatever it may be, right? I'm now offering that to non-clients as well, like just an hour of my time, doing no more than 10 calls a week. And it's been a blessing, because each week's been filled. I'm already have calls filled out into like the first couple weeks of July as well. So it's been a really huge blessing, very big success, and it's been so cool to be able to do something that of course is helping me financially, but it's just adding more value to the community and helping people who are passionate and hungry and trying to grow and trying to be better and trying to build their businesses, or if it's just a lifter who's struggling with something and they want a second pair of eyes on it. It's been really cool to be able to offer that value to the community. But with that being said, it's got me even busier, right? Like my days are even busier than what they already were with just the coaching. And then, of course, still doing my part with Powerlifting Now as being one of the part-time owners of Powerlifting Now and one of the content creators of Powerlifting Now. And the fact that we do have plans to try to grow and expand that in different avenues as well. We'll see what that looks like. But the biggest thing is, of course, the fact that my second child, my son, will be born in October, right? So between that and the fact that Alora is getting older, right? She's 3.5 years old right now. She'll be 4 in January, but she's going to school now. And with that, there's going to be more stuff to attend as far as, plays, musicals, sports, things of that nature. I just don't know what next year looks like. And with that being the case, it makes far more sense for me to kind of just capitalize on where things are at right now. Because I know what things are going to be looking like for the most part this year, right? Like obviously there'll be some extra stressors that are poured in when my son is born. But it's one of these things where it's like, it makes the most sense to compete one more time this year. It'd be different if Nash had gone the way I wanted to, cool. But it didn't. And it's like, I've been competing for 10 years. And if I wait until next year, that means out of those 10 years, I PR my total 9 years in a row. But if I compete one more time this year, that'll be 10 years of competing and 10 years of PR my total, which I would be very proud of that. I would be super happy with that, because it's like dedicating 10 years to this, right? As far as competing, because I don't get paid to compete, I get paid to coach, right? But dedicating 10 years to it and continuing to improve year after year despite setbacks and struggles, it's something that I know I would just be very happy with, and I'd be much happier to walk away in the sense if I had to take a step back from competing, or if I don't compete next year at all. Like I'd be much happier and more content to do that if I kind of finish things out with that 10 years in a row, right? Compared to if I don't. Mind you, like I said, I was very at peace with the way Nationals went, because it was still the best I've ever had. Things happen on the day, circumstances happen on the day. It is what it is, right? And at the end of the day, I just have to be better. I have to be stronger. I have to execute. But it's one of those things where it's like I was at peace with it because my mentality is, okay, I'm just going to build, and come back better next year. But I just don't know if that'll be the case. I think about how in 2021, I PR'd every block of 2021 for the whole year, right? Like 2021 was the best year of training I've ever had as far as powerlifting. I went from a 500 in one squat to a 551 squat. I went from a 363 bench to 374. I went from like a 600 deadlift to a 633 deadlift. So I put on like 90, was it like 90, like 93 or 94 pounds to my training total, right? And even though I PR'd my comp total every year, in 2022 and 2023, you guys know that was just putting the right numbers together on the day. I didn't really get much stronger in training. And it makes sense because in 2022, I expanded my roster again, right? That's when I went, I think, from 60 full coaching clients to 70 full coaching clients. It's also when my daughter Laura was born at the start of the year, right? So between growing the business, having a child, and the fact that I was still decided to make the cut down to 74, even though I was sitting like over, like about like, mid 170s in 2021, decided to cut back down in 2022 and in 2023 as a 74. So I could finally hit that 700 total, that 500 plus dots, which I'm very happy that I did that. I don't regret it. But there's a lot of variables that kind of went into why training progression took a big stall, even though I was still PRing the total on the platform, right? And that could very well happen again. I just don't know. It'll never be due to a lack of effort or a lack of intention, but it's just a lack of recovery resources, right? It's like it's like I will have 2 kids, right, to look out for. And of course, thank God for my amazing wife Amber, my partner Amber, like because, I wouldn't be able to do any of this at all without her. But the fact is, I'm just not the type of dad where I just leave all of that on her. It's like, okay, you be with the kids, I'm gonna go do it. Like, no, like it's a partnership. We work together with everything that we do. And I've been trying to do a lot of extra to make this pregnancy as smooth for her as possible. It's like something where it's like, if she's tired because the pregnancy is more fatiguing and she needs to go take like a 2-3 hour nap during the day, it's like, baby, go ahead, go sleep. I'm going to be with Alora while taking care of work. I will take care of it, right? Unless she's in school, right? And I want to continue for that to be the case. I want, like when my son is born, for her to not feel like she's having to take on all this extra workload by herself. So, the fact is, if I compete this year, if it's after my son's being born, that's still not going to be optimal, but at least I kind of know what to expect, and it won't be the same as like basically the deeper you get into it, the harder it's going to be, right? Whereas if it's kind of right when it happens, okay, I still have a little bit of momentum I can work with. So for that reason, I will be competing again this year. I will tell you guys more details about, the meet and all that once I'm officially signed up and registered and get everything through as far as that. But it's kind of perfect. It's kind of Jonnie Candito uploaded a video just a couple of days ago, and it was a really good video. Like I'll have a link in the description box below. But the video was pretty much like, is it worth it to be natural or not? And spoiler alert, his answer is yes. Of course, he thinks it's worth it to be natural, right? But he talks about the importance of doing things in phases. And like I said, highly suggest you guys check out the video because I like when Jonnie covers topics like this because obviously like his informative stuff is amazing when he's breaking down programming and training, and I love he does like his top 10 list of like lifters or whatever it may be. But I like when he covers topics like this because he's very passionate and he's very like insightful, and he just says things in a way that really just makes you think like, yeah, that's true, or oh yeah, that makes sense. But he talks about the importance of doing things in phases. Like he feels like like when you're a teenager, like say like age 12 to like 17, 18, lifting weights in the background to supplement another sport, doing that, and then like say from like 18 to like early 30s, like focusing on strength training specifically, like something like powerlifting, and then like from mid 30s to like like mid 40s or so, just focusing on hypertrophy and getting as big and jacked as possible, and then like when you're in your 50s and beyond, just like, hey, just be the dude that's healthy, fit, has a six-pack, whatever, right? But it was a really good video. And it really kind of goes hand in hand with kind of the way my thinking is right now in terms of where I am in my life with phases, right? Like I'm 31 years old. I'll be 32 next year. The business is growing, about to have my second child, and I'm always going to work out. Let me be clear. I'm always going to train. I love strength training in general. I love getting bigger and more jacked. But that's the thing. Like what made me really pull the trigger with Brad, I'm like, hey, let's just add the squat volume back and see how it feels, is because the whole purpose of me trying to focus on more hypertrophy was still to build a better baseline for powerlifting. I'm not like in this phase where I'm all in on just, I want to be as big and jacked as possible. Like obviously I always want that, but like hypertrophy is still more like something I'm using to fuel and supplement the powerlifting. It's not the goal for the sake of the goal just yet, right? So in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if I can still handle that squat volume while still trying to build that up as far as hypertrophy, I want to do it because I want my top end to be as well maintained or build up as much as possible. Especially now that we're looking to do a meet, that's what I want to focus on. Because in my mind, if I come in and I finally hit that 1,600 pound total, right? Let's say I come in, I hit anywhere between 727.5, 737.5. I hit that 1,600 pound total. I will be happy with that. Even if I fall short of that, but if I PR the total in general, that's 10 years of PR the total. That we hopefully hit the 1,600 pound mark, and depending on what I weigh, maybe I hit another 500 dots performance, but in the 83s compared to
only having one as a 74 right now. That would be amazing. I'd be really happy with that. And after that, it'd be a thing where, yeah, like I said, if it gets to a point where I just don't have the bandwidth or energy to really pour into prepping for a meet next year, I'd be okay with like shifting gears full throttle and really focusing on hypertrophy for the sake of hypertrophy, not necessarily for the sake of building up a bigger total, but just for the sake of just getting as big as jacked as possible. I'd be okay with that because I feel like at that point, if I compete later this year, 10 years of PR on the total, if I hit the 1,600 pound mark, I think the only thing I'd want to do from there realistically would be like, okay, it would be cool to squat 6, bench 400. That's going down no matter what. I've already benched 396. I will bench 400 this year, whether on the platform or training. That's going to go down. But, you know, squat 6, bench 400, deadlift 700. That'd be the one that probably would take the most time to still build up to. Or maybe not. I mean, deadlift's been pretty on right now. But the bottom line is I'd be okay with that because that would be a 1,700 pound total and I think like 775 kg. But I wouldn't necessarily care if I did that on the platform or just in training. It'd just be cool to hit those numbers. So that'd be something that would still motivate me to keep pushing towards strength training. But even then, probably only for the next like year or two, because I feel like by like 32, 33, at that point, it's just going to be a thing where I'm just like, for me personally, like, I just don't really care about competing to that degree. I'm still going to train and push hard, but I don't necessarily have to keep competing at that point just because I don't know what life's going to look like, but I just know it's going to be a lot busier. My kids will keep getting older. There'll still be more stuff to do. Got to still be managing things with the coaching. In Powerlifting Now, I'm doing more international travel than what I've done before. So it's like these are the things that I have to think about and account for as a whole, right? So, yeah, due to that reason, I've decided to just, let's just go all in and stay committed and do what I need to do. Like I said, this is the final block of this macro, so we're still keeping everything the same as far as accessory that purchase like that. But at the end of this block, Brad and I are really going to talk about, okay, what is going to be the best layout, what's going to be most optimal to just make me my strongest version of myself so I can compete sometime towards the end of this year, have 10 years of PR on the total, and then from there, just see what life has. So, yeah, that's my announcement. That's what I'm going to be doing. Instead of having the rest of the year off like I originally planned, I'm going to compete one more time, and I got to make it worth it. I have to make it work. It's very similar to like, last year when I competed 3 times, but got sick going into one meet, had the freak accident on bench at the second meet, and then finally managed to pull it together in November of last year and PR at the total. But it's like, yeah, I got to do it. I have to PR on the total. If I want the 10 years PR on the total, if I want 1,600 pounds within that time frame, I gotta do it here and now this year. So I'm excited. It's got me even more pumped, and it's why I'm really happy with how things move today and why I'm excited to see how things go with this week 4. But yeah, that's my announcement. That's my spill. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go leave a comment down below. Let me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below. Let me know what can be better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch you guys later.